Which players are seeing their value skyrocket as we head into week 14? I'm about to tell you. Hey, welcome back, Endgame community. It's Chris, and I'm going to bring you some players who I have my eye on that are absolutely skyrocketing heading into week 14 and look like they could be potential league winners down the stretch. Let's get into it. All right, let's start at running back, and I told you it was going to be DeAndre Swift week, and boy, was it DeAndre Swift week. Not only did he have a huge fantasy game, but we saw everything we wanted to see from DeAndre Swift this week. He led the running backs in snaps. He led the running backs in carries, led him in targets, led him in yards, led him in receptions, scored a touchdown, got goal line work, got work inside the 10. Everything we've been hoping for DeAndre Swift happened in week 13, and you have to feel great about DeAndre Swift at this point because you got to think he's only going to see more and more work. Jamal has just not been effective outside of scoring 1-yard touchdowns, giving you almost nothing. DeAndre Swift finally is healthy. The coaches are talking positively about him. You have to be happy. If you have DeAndre Swift and you're going to make your playoffs, you got to be feeling great. He has a great playoff schedule. DeAndre Swift looks like he's going to be a guy who comes in late and wins people championships. Now let's talk about a bunch of rookies, and let's start with Zonovan Knight. Here's a guy that wasn't even on radars really the whole season, right? An undrafted free agent, but he's been thrust into the starting role, which often happens because of injuries. Here in week 13, no Michael Carter. James Robinson wasn't even active the week before. He was active here, but look, Zonovan Knight not only looks good, he's obviously Robert Saleh's preferred option because he had 20 touches in this game, while James Robinson and Ty Johnson combined for only 11. So he had almost double the amount of touches as the other two running backs, and he looks good. Now, we don't know the status of Michael Carter. All we know is he has an ankle injury. He was day-to-day, but you know how these things are. But still, you got to think, even if Michael Carter comes back, Zonovan Knight has earned at least enough of a role to kind of be the 1B to Michael Carter's 1A. And the Jets also have a great playoff schedule for running backs. So I think if you got Zonovan Knight right now, you have to be feeling good because, he's not going to have the upside of like DeAndre Swift, of course, but he looks like a solid every week RB2 that you can just plug in and feel very good about. All right, another rookie that took a while to get going, but it looks like it's his time is James Cook. And we had seen a couple weeks before, he had seen a bit of an increase in his usage, in his snaps, in his touches. But man, in week 13, it fully happened. The breakout happened, right? He had 14 carries, 6 catches on 6 targets. And that's the nice thing about James Cook, especially for, most of us who play in PPR leagues. He's a pass-catching running back. Now, the downside here is he's only about 190 pounds, so you can't expect him to, get goal line work and score a bunch of touchdowns, but still, he's explosive. He's a great receiver, and we see it time and time again. Rookies take over in the second half, and he could be taking over this backfield. I don't think he's going to pull away from Devin Singletary, but this could be more like, a 50-50. And again, with James Cook getting the majority of the receiving work, that's going to be huge for his value. I think going forward in PPR leagues, James Cook is an every week RB2. All right, let's keep going with the rookie train. We got to talk about Isaiah Pacheco. 3 straight weeks with at least 14 carries, has scored in 2 straight weeks. He's clearly the lead back here. I know Jerick McKinnon had a nice game, but he didn't get a ton of volume. He just caught some passes and scored a touchdown. Pacheco is clearly the guy here, and there's no one coming to take his job. It's not going to be Melvin Gordon, who hasn't even been activated from the practice squad in any of these games yet. It's not going to be Ronald Jones, who I don't even know why they have Ronald Jones. It's going to be Isaiah Pacheco from now to the end of the season. Now, granted, he's not going to have tremendous weekly upside because he doesn't catch a ton of passes, but in this offense, he's always going to have a chance to score. And when he's getting this kind of volume and looking as good as he's looking, again, another guy who I'm going to consider a weekly RB2 with upside. If you grabbed him off waivers, you're feeling pretty good right now. Not a league winner like DeAndre Swift again, but a guy who's going to, help teams when it matters most down the stretch. Finally, I might have to change my tune on Brian Robinson. Like, I liked Brian Robinson coming into the season. I liked him when he came back from, being shot in the leg. I didn't like him after like 4 or 5 games of him plodding around for barely 3 yards per carry and doing nothing, and especially when he did nothing 3 weeks ago against Houston. But look what he's done the last 2 weeks. He's basically ran for at least 100 yards each of the last 2 games. Now, granted, this week he didn't have 100 yards. He had like 96, but close enough. And he's actually looked really good on the ground. Maybe he came back too soon from getting shot in the leg, which, you'd think that would take some time to recover from, right? So, but whatever it is, whether it's just, getting acclimated to the speed of the game, getting healthy, whatever it is, he looks great. He looks like the guy in this backfield now. And the nice thing for Brian Robinson is this defense is playing really well. It's going to give him positive game script and plenty of chances to, run the ball 15, 20 times a game. So again, he's not going to have tremendous upside, just like the guys I just talked about. He's not going to have, huge league-breaking type of upside. But right now, you find a running back like Brian Robinson who's going to give you double-digit points with touchdown upside, you're going to take that all day, every day, because the running back position right now is a mess. All right, let's move on to wide receiver. And I usually don't talk about absolute no doubt studs in here, but I've got to talk about Davante Adams because he is absolutely on fire right now. And he looks like he might torch fantasy football from now till the end of the season because they don't throw to anybody else. I mean, yeah, Derek Carr might dump it off to Josh Jacobs every now and then. He might throw it to Foster Moreau or Mac Hollins here or there, but it's really Davante Adams, and this dude is balling out right now, putting up huge games. In 4 of the last 5 games, he's scored at least 27 PPR points. That is absolutely insane. This guy is carrying teams, and I think he's going to continue carrying teams all the way to their championships. So if you have Davante Adams, congratulations. You're probably on your way to a championship. And then got to talk about Sun God. He has been on a tear lately. After the team's bye, he kind of had a slow start there, those games after the bye, and it looked like, okay, maybe those first couple of games in the season, those were kind of a mirage, and he's just going to be a good but not great wide receiver. Well, that's all out the window now because he has been absolutely on fire. Not quite Davante Adams on fire, but still really good. 22 or more PPR points in 3 of the last 4 games. The Lions have some great matchups coming out. We've got Sun God as a no doubt must start every week, and I think that's going to be the case from now till the end of the season. So not quite as excited about him as I am with Davante Adams, but you still got to be feeling really good. If you have Sun God, you have a great chance down the stretch and the potential to win your fantasy championship. And now let's talk about a rookie who started off hot, cooled off, and is hot again. And I'm talking, of course, about Garrett Wilson. And all it took for Garrett Wilson was for Zach Wilson to get benched. And now Garrett Wilson is showing what he can do. Absolutely on fire the last 2 games. Here in week 13, he had 18 targets, 8 catches, and 162 yards. Are you kidding me? This guy is playing out of his mind right now. As long as it's not Zach Wilson, as long as it's Mike White or even, Joe Flacco, you got to be feeling great about Garrett Wilson right now. Garrett Wilson, back-to-back games with at least 24 PPR points, and he looks like an absolute league winner at this point. So if you held on through that down stretch with Zach Wilson, congratulations. It's paying off for you when it matters most. Now let's go from a rookie back to a veteran. Let's talk about DK Metcalf. This is a guy I was really worried about, with Geno Smith, but look, hats off to Geno Smith. He's done something this year. He's figured something out. He's been playing great, and it has helped DK Metcalf back-to-back games with over 20 PPR points. He looks like an absolute monster in this offense. And now we have Kenneth Walker dealing with some kind of ankle injury. If he's going to miss time, this may be an offense that just throws the ball even more because they can actually do it. So DK Metcalf, another guy, he's kind of been volatile this year, but you should be feeling really good if you have DK Metcalf at this point. Another guy who looks like he's going to help teams win fantasy football championships down the stretch here. And then finally, back to a rookie, and Christian Watson just cannot be stopped at this point, right? We just have to accept it. Christian Watson absolutely cannot be stopped. But look, early on this run that Christian Watson was going on, I was saying well, let's calm down here. He's only getting 4 catches. He's catching a touchdown every other pass. This can't keep up. But over the last 3 games, he has over a 20% target share in each of those games. That's what makes me feel really, really good about Christian Watson. Now, I know I had him on the video last week, but I got to put him on again because he looks like he's skyrocketing and here to stay, because with that kind of target share, he can sustain this. Now, he's not going to have a 46-yard touchdown run every week, but it's okay because we know the big play potential for this guy in this offense. As long as it doesn't even matter. Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, I don't care. Christian Watson is an every week must start wide receiver from now till the end of the season. All right, I don't have any tight ends to talk about this week because tight ends suck. But I do have some quarterbacks to talk about, and I got to start with Jalen Hurts. And I know I said with Devontae Adams, I don't talk about studs, but Jalen Hurts is on fire right now. Probably took over the lead as the front runner for the real life MVP, but he could have maybe taken over the lead as a fantasy MVP as well because he's on fire. Since the team's bye, he has not scored less than 20 points in standard 4-point touchdown leagues, and he has over 29 points in each of the last 2 games. Look, he's got A.J. Brown, he's got Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert coming back. Jalen Hurts could absolutely dominate fantasy football down the stretch here. He's doing what we hope Josh Allen would do this year. Running, throwing, everything. He looks like a true fantasy MVP. If you got Jalen Hurts, congratulations, you're feeling good. And then welcome back Justin Fields, picking up right where he left off, running for 71 yards and a touchdown. But the nice thing, the really encouraging thing for Justin Fields here was he threw for quite a bit of yards for Justin Fields standards, at least 250 yards, nothing crazy, but if he's going to throw for that kind of yardage with what he brings with his legs, he's going to have tremendous weekly upside. This was his first kind of test against a really good defense, at least a good passing defense, not a good defense against the run as we see, but a good passing defense. He passed with flying colors. At this point, Justin Fields is a no doubt must start. You have to start him everywhere you have him, regardless of matchup. And then finally, it is Mike White season. Now look, granted, he did throw that interception at the end of the game that lost him the game. But look, for fantasy, he's been great. 19 fantasy points this week, even with those interceptions. Over 20 last week. He's chucking the ball. He's throwing it. That's what you want from your fantasy quarterback. Yes, he's going to make mistakes like we saw today, with interceptions and things like that. But it doesn't matter for fantasy. You just care about the points. And the Jets have a great upcoming schedule. Yes, they get Buffalo here. That might be a rough spot for him. But if you can get through that and get into your fantasy playoffs, they get Detroit, Jacksonville, and Seattle. Now, he's probably not a guy you're counting on in your 1 QB leagues to lead you to the promised land. But if you're in a 2 QB league or Superflex league and you pick them up, he could absolutely take you to a fantasy championship. All right, those are players skyrocketing heading into Week 14. But what about who to start, who to sit, who could boom? We got you covered. Everything you need for your Week 14 matchup to help you win. Check out our Week 14 playlist right here.